They told men that love was something you had to earn. That affection was a prize waiting at the end of obedience. Be good, be useful, be dependable, and maybe you'll be loved. But here's the cruel twist. Most men die never knowing what unconditional love even feels like. Because from the very beginning, the world trained them to perform for it. A man doesn't cry when he's hurt, he earns approval by swallowing it. He doesn't ask for affection, he earns it by being strong, by providing, by fixing what others break. And when he finally receives a smile, a touch, a fleeting thank you, he feels warmth, but not love. Because love, in his world, is not given freely. It's transactional. The tragedy is how early it begins. A boy cries for attention, and instead of being comforted, he's told to man up. A small seed is planted in his psyche. Love must be deserved. Every act of softness becomes a test. Every failure a punishment. He learns that approval is affection, that praise is intimacy, and that his value lives in how much he can endure. This conditioning doesn't vanish with age, it evolves. It hides inside his relationships, his career, his very identity. He works himself to exhaustion to prove he's worthy. He sacrifices his peace to make others comfortable. He becomes addicted to being good enough, yet never feels enough. Society tells him, you'll be loved when you succeed. You'll be respected when you provide. You'll be desired when you conquer. And so he builds his entire life chasing something that was never supposed to be earned. Because true love, the kind that heals instead of drains, doesn't come with terms and conditions. But most men never meet it. They meet admiration. They meet dependence. They meet need. But love, the kind that stays when you have nothing left to offer, that kind of love feels like a myth told to children. Men are taught to equate usefulness with worth, to believe that if they ever stop producing, performing, giving, they will stop deserving affection. And when you believe that long enough, you stop believing that you have any right to be loved at all. It's why so many men can't rest. Why silence feels like rejection. Why they stay in relationships where they are invisible. Because invisibility feels safer than the emptiness of being truly seen and unloved. He'll give and give and give, not because he's generous, but because deep down, he's terrified that if he stops, there will be nothing left for anyone to want. This is how society trains men. Not to love, but to earn love. Not to connect, but to prove their value. And the cruelest part is that even when they finally earn it, it never feels real. Because real love can't be purchased through suffering. And men who spend their lives chasing approval die with the quiet realization that the affection they bled for was never love, only permission. The permission to exist, to be tolerated, to feel like they mattered for a moment. But that moment fades, and he's left staring into the same emptiness, the one that was planted in him as a boy. Love, he learns too late, was never supposed to be a wage. It was supposed to be a home. There was a man I once spoke to who said, "I feel like a vending machine for affection. I put in everything I have, and sometimes love comes out. But most of the time, it's just noise." He wasn't bitter. He was tired. Tired of performing for the very thing he should have been allowed to feel without performance. He grew up with a mother who praised him only when he was useful. "Mom, I got an A. Good boy." "Mom, I cleaned my room. Good boy." But when he cried, when he failed, when he needed comfort, silence. The message was clear: you're lovable when you're good, when you're strong, when you don't make me uncomfortable. He carried that programming into every relationship he had. He thought love was about earning safety. So he learned to anticipate needs before anyone voiced them. He learned to suppress his anger, to be agreeable, to become the version of himself people wanted. He was rewarded with approval, but never connection. Years later, he met a woman who told him, "You're so reliable. You're the kind of man every woman dreams of." And he smiled, because that's what he wanted to hear. But deep down, he knew, she wasn't in love with him. She was in love with how he made her feel. And that's what most men become, emotional servants to the comfort of others. Another man, let's call him Daniel, told me he hadn't cried in 15 years. He said, "If I ever stop being strong, everything will fall apart." He worked 70 hours a week, paid every bill, fixed every problem, but lived in silence. His wife never asked how he felt, because he never showed a sign of feeling anything. When he finally broke down one night, quietly, in the dark, she didn't recognize him. She looked at him like he was someone else. Because she never fell in love with the man. She fell in love with the role he played. That's how most men live, in roles. The protector, the provider, the fixer. Each mask earning temporary affection. Each act keeping the illusion alive. But when the performance stops, so does the love. One of the cruelest forms of neglect is conditional affection. When you're loved for what you do, not who you are. It creates a quiet kind of madness, the fear that if you ever stop doing, you'll stop mattering. And this is what drives men into burnout, depression, addiction. Not weakness, but the constant anxiety of being replaceable. I remember another story, a father, stoic and kind, who raised his family with quiet sacrifice. He worked himself to death, literally, a heart attack at 52. At his funeral, people spoke of how hard he worked, how dependable he was, how he never complained. But no one said he was happy. No one said he was known. He died surrounded by people who loved what he did, not who he was. This is the hidden epidemic. Men dying emotionally long before their bodies give out. Because they've been trained to see love as a wage, not a birthright. And it starts small. A boy tries to make his mother proud. A teenager tries to make a girl like him. A man tries to make his boss respect him. Every stage of life becomes a transaction, effort for approval. Until one day, he realizes he doesn't even know what he wants anymore. He's forgotten. He's forgotten what it feels like to be loved without purpose, without performance, without expectation. Some men find it too late, after divorce, after burnout, after they've given everything. They look back and realize that the people they bled for never actually saw them. They only saw what they provided. And the most devastating realization is this. When love has always been earned, you stop believing you deserve it freely. So even when someone tries to love you unconditionally, it feels foreign, even wrong. You push it away. You sabotage it. Because deep down, the idea of being loved without earning it feels like a lie. This is how deep the conditioning runs. It's not just in behavior, it's in identity. Society didn't just train men how to act. It trained them who to be. They were never taught how to receive love. Only how to win it, perform for it, die trying to deserve it. And the tragedy is, most of them still will. There comes a moment in every man's life when the mask begins to crack. It happens quietly. In a conversation that dies mid-sentence, in a look that feels hollow, in the sound of his own heartbeat when the house is finally still. He realizes he's spent his whole life giving everything, and yet somehow, he's still unseen. He's the man who fixes the broken things no one thanks him for fixing. The man who swallows his pain so no one else has to feel it. The man who keeps showing up, even when no one notices he's dying inside. He doesn't complain. He doesn't collapse. He just endures. Because that's what he was taught love requires. Endurance. But there's a certain kind of quiet that starts to rot the soul. It's the silence of a man who's realized that no matter how much he gives, it will never be enough to earn something that was never his to earn. That's when the anger begins. Not the loud, violent kind, but the slow-burning kind that lives in the chest. The kind that whispers, "Why wasn't I ever enough just being me? Why did I have to bleed for permission to be cared for? Why did love always come with a receipt attached?" He begins to see the patterns, the way every thank you is just another leash. The way every promise of affection dissolves the moment he stops performing. He begins to understand that what the world calls love was never love, it was dependency, admiration, convenience. And in that understanding comes a deeper kind of grief. Because once you realize you were never truly loved, you have to face the question, what have I been living for all this time? He remembers the years spent proving himself, at work, in relationships, even to his friends. The way he'd stay up until 3 a.m. to fix a problem that wasn't his. The way he'd say yes when his body screamed no. The way he'd show up for everyone else, and yet no one showed up for him. And the world applauds this kind of man. They call him strong. They call him reliable. They call him a good man. But they never call him free. Because freedom requires the ability to stop performing, to exist without earning your place. And most men can't. They don't know how. They fear that if they stop being useful, they'll vanish, and the terrifying part is, they're not wrong. Society rewards performance, not presence. Even in love. A man's tenderness is only tolerated when it serves a purpose. A man's vulnerability is only accepted when it's aesthetic, brief, digestible, not too heavy. The moment his pain becomes inconvenient, he becomes a burden. So he learns to lock it away. To smile through emptiness. To be fine. To love in silence, to hurt in private, to exist only in ways that don't disturb the comfort of others. And over time, that kind of existence kills the soul. Not dramatically. Slowly. Softly. Like a candle starved of oxygen. He becomes a ghost who still pays the bills, still fixes the leaks, still says, I'm good, don't worry about me. But inside, he's begging for something he doesn't even know how to ask for. To be loved without needing to earn it. To be seen without needing to explain. To be held without needing to prove he's worthy of it. But the world doesn't know how to give that to men. Because the world never learned how to love men, it only learned how to use them. Look around, the language of love itself is built around conditions. Be a good man. Be strong. Be stable. Be better. Every word a subtle reminder that who you are now isn't enough. And the man obeys, because he's been trained to. He believes that if he just keeps improving, keeps giving, keeps performing, one day, he'll be enough for someone. But the truth is cruel. The moment he stops being a source of utility, the world will forget his name. That's why so many men crumble quietly. Why they stop talking. Why they detach. Because somewhere deep inside, they've realized that their love story was never about love, it was about survival. They were never taught how to receive affection, only how to deserve it. Never taught how to rest, only how to earn rest. Never taught how to exist, only how to justify their existence. And so they live in a loop of giving without receiving, of caring without being cared for, of loving people who never truly loved them back. Until one day, something breaks. Not in a loud explosion, but in a quiet surrender. He stops trying, stops fighting, stops hoping. That's when society calls him cold. They don't understand that his coldness isn't cruelty, it's exhaustion. He's not bitter, he's empty. He has given every part of himself, and the world still demanded more. He stops answering texts, stops showing up to dinners, stops smiling for people who only see the surface. He starts spending long nights alone, staring at the ceiling, wondering if love was ever real, or just another story used to keep him obedient. And slowly, he begins to see the truth. He was never meant to earn love. He was meant to embody it. But he was trained to believe that who he was, raw, imperfect, human, wasn't lovable enough. So he built an empire of usefulness to hide his fear of being unworthy. He built his own prison and called it purpose. And now, standing in the ruins of his own devotion, he finally understands. Every act of self-betrayal disguised as love was just another way of begging for permission to exist. He thought he was loving others. But he was really just trying to prove to himself that he deserved to be alive. That's the deepest pain a man can know. To realize that the love he spent his life chasing was never love at all. There's a silence that comes after a man stops trying to be loved. It's not bitterness. It's not hatred. It's the sound of detachment, the quiet awareness that nothing he gives will change the truth of what he's been living in. He sits in that silence and starts to see the world differently. He sees how affection was always conditional, how approval was always transactional, how every "I love you" was really just another way of saying, "Keep being useful to me." But in that realization, something else begins to stir, something small, ancient, and painfully real. It's the awareness that love, real love, cannot be earned. It can only be received. And to receive, a man must unlearn everything the world taught him about what it means to be worthy. He must let go of performance. He must let go of identity built on usefulness. He must learn the art of existing without apologizing for it. Because the truth is, no one can teach a man how to be loved. They can only teach him how to behave. But love doesn't live in behavior. It lives in presence. And that's what men have been starved of. Presence. The kind of love that doesn't ask for proof. The kind that doesn't disappear when you fail. The kind that says, "I see you, even when you're not doing anything for me." That's what a boy needed to hear when he cried, but didn't. That's what a man needs to feel when he's exhausted, but can't. The world tells men to be strong, but it never tells them what for. To be protectors, but never who will protect them. To love deeply, but never how to be loved back. So they create a language of quiet suffering, a form of strength that looks noble, but is just loneliness wearing armor. And they carry it through their lives like a curse disguised as virtue. But eventually, even armor rusts. Even the strongest man breaks under the weight of never being allowed to collapse. That's when something shifts, when he stops asking to be loved and starts questioning what love even is. He begins to see that the thing he's been chasing isn't love, it's relief. Relief from the endless proving. Relief from the fear of being unworthy. Relief from the lie that love must be earned through suffering. And that's where real freedom begins, in the collapse. When a man lets himself fall apart without trying to fix it. When he sits in his pain without turning it into productivity. When he says, "I am tired," and doesn't feel guilty for it. That's when he begins to meet himself. Not the performer, not the provider, but the man underneath it all. The boy who wanted to be held, not tested. The soul who only ever wanted to be seen. And that's the paradox. To be loved, you must first stop trying to deserve it. Because love cannot survive in a place where worth must be proven. It withers under expectation. It suffocates under performance. The men who finally understand this, they walk differently. They move through the world without begging for permission to exist. They stop chasing, stop fixing, stop earning. And in doing so, they begin to attract something they've never known before. Peace. Not the shallow peace of avoidance, but the deep peace of self-acceptance. The kind that whispers, "I am enough, even when I do nothing at all." And maybe that's what love really is. Not a transaction. Not a bargain. But the space between two people who no longer need to perform for each other. So if you're a man watching this, stop running. Stop earning. Stop proving. The love you've been chasing was never outside you. It's been waiting in the silence, beneath the noise of your usefulness, beneath the weight of your expectations, beneath the endless need to be enough. It's been waiting for you to remember yourself. Because the truth is simple. You were never unlovable. You were just trained to believe that love had a price. But love, real love, asks for nothing. And when you finally stop paying for it, that's when you'll start to feel it. Maybe that's the most rebellious thing a man can do in this world. To stop earning love. And start receiving it. To look at himself, raw and unfinished. And say, "I am worthy, even when no one is watching." That's where it begins. The quiet revolution inside the soul of a man who finally realizes that the love he never received was the love he was always meant to give himself.